Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and its Ukrainian proxy forces. Now, today, I'm going to show you, we're going to start off with the two mapping systems, one the Deep State map, followed by the Rondelli Foundation. Now, both of these mapping services that are covering the continued conflict, the continued war, are both, for the most part, well, I don't want to say for the most part, they are and tend to be more Ukrainian supporting map sites. Now, what's interesting, if you go and you look closely at the Deep State map, centered around Toretsk, this would indicate that Ukrainian forces are still attempting to contest the town, the city. Now, from the information that we are getting is that Ukrainian forces have evacuated the town. For quite some time, there has been ongoing light infantry engagements taking place in and around the city. But as we speak now, it would appear that Ukrainian forces have indeed pulled out. Now, the Deep State map would indicate that there is still fighting going on within the areas of the single-family home unit areas within the city. If we go over to the Rondelli Foundation, a bit of a different story. This would indicate that most of the Ukrainian forces have pulled out, with the exception of some platoon-sized elements that may still exist in the northwestern outskirts of the city. But we believe, as we produce this content, Russian forces have, for the most part, cleared out Ukrainian forces from this town. It would appear that the Ukrainian military is looking to reestablish a defensive line near this railroad installation here, running along the Toretsk River. This is more or less a frozen stream as we speak. So again, not an actual terrain, a defensible terrain feature. Most of this foliage you see here, just to the east by southeast of the railroad, is there's no longer, this foliage does not exist. This is, for all intents and purposes, an open field. There obviously are trees in this area, but again, this satellite image was taken during the summer, and most of this foliage would have fallen as well. Now, are the Ukrainians going to be able to reestablish said defensive line in this area? Probably not. Again, much easier for the Ukrainians to defend these older Soviet-style apartment buildings. They have subterranean bunkers made out of concrete, multi-story dwellings. There are industrial areas in this town. So the defensive position that the Russians have taken were very much valuable for the Russian military. Very challenging endeavor to conduct urbanized combat in areas such as what you're looking at here on the map, on the satellite images. But again, these Ukrainian forces are pulling back out of this town, and the Russians have indeed captured the city. Now, we're seeing this taking place all along the line of contact. If we move further to the south by southwest, you can see the ongoing process of the envelopment of Pokrovsk is continuing to take place. The Russian military, specifically the 90th Guards Tank Division, with its two tank regiments and 2 motorized infantry regiments are continuing offensive operations to push and envelop from the south by southwest the town of Pokrovsk. At the same time, the Russians continue to hammer Ukrainian units that are positioned on the outskirts and inside the city as well. We're continuing to see Russian guided glide bombs being used against Ukrainian forces to great effect. We have had continued reports in which Ukrainian drone units are operating in the basements and bunkers of some of these, again, these Soviet-era apartment complexes. And what is happening is that these positions are being destroyed as the Russians locate them, and they're using these guided glide bombs to then penetrate the basement levels of these buildings and then destroying the Ukrainian drone units that continue to operate within the confines of the city. The drone units that the Ukrainians are using is probably one of the only elements of this conflict that are preventing the Russians from moving into the city and seizing control of it. That and long-range anti-tank guided weapon systems as well that tend to be used against infantry formations and light armored vehicles and other vehicles that the Russians may use to attempt to approach the city. But the Russians are being incredibly methodical in its ongoing operation to eventually clear this city. And again, moving forward, these special operations forces, where they identified dug-in Ukrainian units, and then they utilize those glide bombs, they utilize long-range, multiple launch rocket systems, heavy artillery, and then they proceed to reduce the Ukrainian formations in a specific area that are continuing to defend the city. So it's essentially time and pressure. Time, pressure, and attrition, and the Russians will eventually move into this city. That is the tactic that is being utilized right now. If you watch Western media, you would think that tens of thousands of Russian troops are conducting mass infantry charges against Pokrovsk. That is not the case. That is not what is happening. These are very small, specialized elements of the Russian military that are getting closer and closer to Pokrovsk, then calling in air support in the form of these guided glide bombs once they fix a Ukrainian position. And that's what is happening along the entire, essentially, line of contact of this conflict. You can see areas in which that are west of Kharkova, which the Russians are conducting these envelopment and destroy operations, and they are continuing. Just to the west of Dachny, or I'm sorry, of Kharkova, you have Dachny. That, again, probably a Ukrainian company-sized element that is fixed at this position. And the Russians, as we speak, are both to the north, to the east, to the south, and soon to be to the west of this position. So we will continue to cover what exactly is happening in this ongoing conflict and bring you more information as it warrants. But again, thank you for joining us today. More to come very, very soon. Have a good day.